Hi, welcome to Astral Projection Techniques. I'm Briana.
And I'm Katie. This is our first episode, and we're really excited to share with you what we have in store.
Yeah, we're really excited to share with you all the content that we have coming. I'd like to dedicate this episode to Simon Baraklov, the founder of our Facebook group, Astral Projection Techniques, and the reason why we're here.
So yeah, Simon, we love you. I don't think you realize the impact that you've had on so many lives and bringing people together. So this one's for you.
Cheers to that. So let's jump right into it. I'd like to talk about a little bit of our background and how we got here and how we found astral projection to begin with. Katie, would you like to share?
Yeah, so my story with astral projection is, well, everybody has, maybe an unusual one. My story, it's more recent than most of, the admins in our group. And so I, I guess I started, I'm not sure what happened to give me this. I got this spontaneous experience that happened about a year ago. And so I'm pretty new to this. Uh, my experience happened after I had been listening to a lot of near death experiences. I was kind of like, I don't know if it was, the existential crisis thing or something, but I had a lot of fear about death, and so I enjoy near death experiences fascinated me, and so I was listening to a lot of those, and I don't know if that just really opened up the box or kind of like opened up maybe my awareness to higher consciousness or something like that. I don't know if that's what was it what caused this spontaneous experience, but just one night I was sleeping. I had this really vivid dream, and I was taking care of someone who was sick, and I didn't recognize the bedroom that I was in, but I was taking care of someone who was sick, and I had watched a like a scary movie the night before. I saw these religious I'm these statues. The scary movie kind of had these religious tones to it, so I think that's how it made it into the dream. But I saw up on the mantle these two statues that looked like marble. They were like saints maybe, or some type of religious figure. And so I was going to set these statues next to the person who was in the bed that I was taking care of that was sick. I don't know if I thought that they would help or something. But as I held these two statues together, I felt this magnetic like push between them, and
Wow.
sort of like if you hold two magnets from the opposite sides, you feel like that push between them.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was so interesting, so I wanted to keep doing that, and I was just holding them close together, and as I did that, I started feeling, like, these vibrations, this electricity kind of coming up through my hands, then my arms, and then through my whole body,
Wow.
and it was these vibrations. It felt like, like getting electrocuted almost, but it didn't hurt, and it was almost kind of pleasant, and it just kept getting stronger and stronger, and I started thinking, something's gonna happen, something's gonna happen, and then I it just got so great that it's like I just started floating up out of my body, and I remember thinking, the vibrations had stopped after I floated up. I remember thinking, I'm gonna hit my head on the ceiling, so I need to turn sideways so I don't do that. And then right when I thought that, I flipped sideways, and then it hit me. My God, I'm dying. I'm dying, I panicked. And then I woke up. I woke up and I was in bed. So I had not known anything about astral projection. I had heard of it before, but I really thought that it was something that happened, with like extreme yogis that like, and
Lots of practice.
yes. and that, if they did it, I thought it meant that they could just levitate a little bit out of their body. So I did not wake from this and think, "Oh, I astral projected." I started Googling, they say don't Google stuff, right? But in this case, I was so glad that I did. I really thought that I had maybe like a seizure or something and died in my sleep is what I was thinking. That was, I didn't know because of the vibrations. I just couldn't explain, and my thought was not going toward astral projection. So the vibrations though they felt so real that that's what stuck with me. And so I googled like vibrations, during sleep, and what came through were all these articles about astral projection, OBEs, and it just kind of I was just kind of stunned, I guess. And because
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about it, and so I thought, Facebook has to have some group that knows something
Ta-da!
about this. And I find this, our wonderful Facebook group, Astral Projection Techniques, and just all the support there. And it went from not knowing, very much to, in this past year, I have just tried to absorb as much as I can, reading, all these books that people were recommending and stuff. So it's been a journey, and I'm still on it and trying to learn more. So how about you? How did you uh what triggered you to find the group, and how did you get started with this?
So back in 2020, so it was October of 2020, I had a pretty crazy experience while I was awake in my bathroom, and that's a story for a different episode, but it was paranormal. And I've always had things, like unexplained experiences happen to me. So I always, knew that there was something else after this. And so
Mhm.
I didn't grow up with a religious background. And I think that maybe kind of left me open to things, the unknown, because I didn't have anything set in my head in stone. So after this experience I had been seeing things about astral projection in my news feed and just, here and there, it was 2020, everybody had their hands free and, we're, just finding new hobbies, if you will. So I decided to look up a meditation on YouTube, and I found one, and I actually have it saved in my little watch for later still, all these years later. But I had laid down in bed and I turned on this meditation. I had no headphones then. No, that wasn't something I did. I didn't even know I needed them. So I laid down in bed and I turned this meditation on, and I lay there and I didn't know what to expect or what to do. I just kind of laid there and listened to the meditation. And all of a sudden, I'm standing at the end of my bed and looking at my body, and I called it, still to this day, I'm like, it's beginner's luck how people go to the casino and win a bunch of money, but I'm standing at the end of the bed looking at my body, and the experience I had had earlier that evening, I thought it was my grandmother, and I've always asked for a sign for her since, from her since she had passed away. So I thought for sure, I'm like, that's my grandma, that what had happened made me think that it was her. And so I'm standing at the end of my bed and I'm looking at my closed door and thinking about opening it. And then I got this, rush of what if it isn't, because I also watch scary movies, and you see these things and you're like, oh, it's, something playing tricks on you. And,
Yeah.
I just got this, rush of scary, terrified. Like, I'm like, no, never mind. So as soon as that feeling came about, I had got thrown back into my body. But then I had this newfound, like, excitement of, oh my gosh, it's real. Like, this is real, And so after that, it was just, I buried myself deep in books and started meditating and going to bed early and just, spending as much time as I possibly could in my bedroom, just in my own little world. And just one thing led to another. And then I also looked on Facebook and found our great group, and Simon was one of the first to reach out to me because I was like a lost, puppy dog, like, I don't know what's going on, So, yeah, that's how I found it. I'd like to tell my story a little bit more, but it's a pretty long one, so we'll save that for, like, a Halloween episode, you know?
That sounds good.
So yeah.
And I know, I mean, I assume for you too, like you were saying that you kind of like just dove into like books and you want to know more and you were doing all these things. It's like when, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate when you have some type of experience like that where you're just kind of like awake, something's awakened in you and you, I mean, I don't know, it's not so much like an obsession, but it's just like, you just can't let it go. You just want to know
Yeah.
more. It just is like it's seeing like this whole world through different eyes. And so that's the way it's been for me too.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is like, and I'm not gonna lie, I was obsessed. I spent a couple months just like, I mean, I'm like, "Okay, kids, I'm going to bed," you know? I mean, my, better half has always, been there take my mom, once after this October experience, my mom passed away in December, and it all kind of made sense to me on why this all started happening. I feel like I needed that to help heal from my mother passing, you know? And I think it helped push the process a little bit quicker because I'm like, I knew for sure. I always had this, like I said, I've had experiences my whole life since I was a kid of like paranormal type things. But then I knew for sure, like I was just looking at my body at the end of my bed and I was wide awake, as in not, I was fully conscious. Like I wasn't, awake, but I was there. Like it wasn't a dream, and it just made me like have all these, I had all these answers, but I had all these questions too,
Yeah.
so it left a lot of loose ends for me, and I still don't have all the answers. Like you said, we're still learning, and it's a constant journey, and it's a fun hobby to have, like I said, I do it because I want to, I don't do it because I have to. And it's quite the experience. I mean, especially if you don't have money to travel, I mean, you can always travel.
That's been, that's the exciting thing. I think, it's just the opportunities to, I mean, you can go anywhere, any place, anywhere. And I like that, our one of our admins, Leo, is doing these experiments in our group where, trying to do these meetups where people are meeting up and at different locations or trying to, and which just trying making it fun. You were talking about the, just this Facebook group has been great for, just any questions that, you have, like, nobody makes you feel they really made me feel, and I'm sure with you, I mean, and everybody, it's just like
At home.
it's home, yeah.
Mhm.
And you every there's just not a question that's too, too weird about it or anything.
Right.
And it's nice to go there. These are things that most of us can't talk about, with maybe the general population.
Exactly. You get looked at like you have a third eye,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like, the connection that we have within that group is just it's beautiful, and we have people from all over the world, that speak different languages, and just everybody's so welcoming, our admin team, and, we're very active in that group to where nobody feels left behind. Nobody's questions go unanswered. And there's so many references, just to anything that you can find, and you can search anything. And, it's really a whole just open book of information, I
Yeah.
can't say enough about how much I love that group, and I love other groups too, but that's my home, and that'll always be my home no matter where, where life takes me. That's where I've got my roots for sure,
Yes. And I know that there's so many great authors of books with out of body experiences that I know we'll talk about. If we don't talk about them all in this episode, then we will in other ones. But you and um, I think we both read the same book as like a first book, right?
Yeah,
What was
Adventures
your
Beyond
first
the Body.
Adventures Beyond the Body?
Yeah,
Oh, by
by Mr.
William.
Buellman. Yeah,
Yes.
William Buellman. Yeah, he's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that one, I think because I saw it in a post that it was, highly recommended book to read. I mean, along with, of course, a lot of other ones, but that one, it's a great book. Um,
It's the
I mean,
holy
it
grail.
it really,
It
I
really
just
is.
can't say enough. And I think you and I both have read it multiple times.
I've listened to it, read it, and,
Listened to
I've
it, read it.
got the book from the library. I own the book now. I've listened to it on Audible. I
Yes.
just love the way he goes into his experiences, and I feel like each time I read it, I find something different, like, "Aha, well, that makes sense now."
Yeah.
He really makes sense of a lot of things that I had questions about, and a funny story is whenever I first started getting into all this stuff and I seen him and I'm like, "Oh, well, he knows what he's talking about." So I messaged him and he was very nice to me and messaged me back. And then I realized, who he was and how, busy he was. And I was like, I was like, "Okay, I'll leave you alone, but thank you for messaging me back." But yeah, he was really nice to me and, I know he's a busy man, but yeah, he's a great guy. He's great. I love listening to him talk. I've watched him,
Mhm.
on just his, YouTube stuff that he has and anything that he posts, I always make sure to give it a look, because he usually has some pretty good information.
Yeah, and he kind of, I don't know, it really, I mean, I'm like you. I grew up not really like very religious, just not really. I didn't, read the Bible, and I wasn't. And so it was just nice, some of the things that William talks about, it really, I don't know, I could identify with the things that he was saying,
Right.
and just helps, have more of an open mind about things. So, but listening to his uh, book on Audible, it's like if I get kind of in a rut where, you know, maybe I'm not having as many experiences or things happening, it's for some reason that book is kind of helps get my mind back on track just listening to it.
I agree. I agree. I think that, I think we all have dry spells. It doesn't matter. Even the, most people that say, or that write books, even, I mean, Buellman probably has times where he doesn't have success, not everybody, it's not. And I think that's common, misunderstanding within the group is people get upset and they give up. And I'm a firm believer that if you take breaks and come back to it, with anything, you might just have that luck to where you just need a little bit of a reset sometimes, and then sometimes it comes easier for others than it does, one person, people always different, so
Yeah.
I think eating, breathing, and sleeping, it is a very good way to get it, in your subconscious. But again, taking a break sometimes if that's not working and then coming back to it has worked for me, whenever I do have a dry spell.
I think like what you said, some people come by it so naturally, and so reading some of those posts in our Facebook group and seeing, people having these experiences. I've had them since I was a kid. I've had hundreds. I have them, weekly for
Hmm.
people who've been trying cuz so long to make those happen, and they've been doing different things, and that can be really frustrating. And so, you know, if you're one of those people, like, you're not alone. And I've been there. I know I've messaged Simon, and he said to me the same thing that you did. Just taking that break was, like his advice to me. I remember him saying that to me one time, like, just take a break. So sometimes that has helped. Like, sometimes you're expecting things to happen, and
Right.
you start to get frustrated, and if you're frustrated, then that's not going to help.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer, like if I am having a bad day or any kind of, just down and out feeling or, everybody has those days, I won't even attempt to have a OB or, um, it's just, anytime that I have, it usually ends up not how I want it to. And, it's one of those things that you can't really control anyway. You can always set a destination and you can always set, to have or see someone or have an experience, and it's not guaranteed to work. There's nothing guaranteed. And I think it's a, practice repeat type thing, so
Mhm.
you can get better at those things, which I have. Whenever I first started, I remember I would try to, prolong these experiences. And again, Buellman's book, I started grounding myself and learning how to, awareness now and just these commands
Mhm.
that helped me, because whenever I first started, it took me a little while to, get his book and to start reading more. I was just like, let me keep trying to do what I did the first time, let me listen to these meditations and lay in my bed. I mean, I would lay in my bed sometimes for hours awake and drifting in and out of sleep. And sometimes I would get out and I wouldn't be able to see, and then I tried using like a sleep mask. And I remember I got out and I ran through the house trying to get away from my body, and it looked like I had like a spider web across my face, like this webbing, and I couldn't get it off. I kept trying to shake it and like pull it off, and it wasn't moving. And I don't know if it had something to do with the sleep mask, but I know other people use sleep masks and it helps. So I think sometimes it's a mind over matter type thing too, like, because
Mhm.
I didn't know, I had no way to know whether this was what was making that happen or not. But, like, there was times in the beginning where I would just exit experiences because I'm like, "Oh, this isn't what I wanna do," or I'd see something that would freak me out, and I'm like, "Nope, not doing that," and
Yep.
so I got over that hump of, "Okay, well, I can't keep running from things," and I, got through my I call them test, or, like I think it's almost like a test to like fake the gatekeeper, and it's just, and sometimes it's hypnagogic images, that freak people out or freak me out, so I think that it's just live and learn. Again, you gotta get over that hump or you're not gonna get anywhere, because once I got through the couple scary experiences I did have, I was having great experiences and doing basically whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, that's
so
how it worked out.
as you've been in the group for, I mean, since the beginning, the Facebook group, really, I
Close to
mean,
it, yeah. It
right?
wasn't there wasn't, I wanna say, a few thousand members maybe whenever I started, maybe, and now we're up to, I think, 124,000 people,
Yeah,
which is
wow.
excellent, yeah.
That's
It's
amazing.
beautiful, see it grow, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so you've seen so many people, I mean, you probably know the people who have been there a long time, and then are there things that you've seen, I mean, what is like the techniques that seem to help people the most? I mean, or the things, what are the successful, when people are successful, what are those things that they're doing in your opinion?
So, I think that the biggest thing that I think helps people is meditation. I really believe that. I think that helps you be able to clear your mind enough to have an experience, because if you can't, clear your mind and do that mind awake body asleep, it's hard to have an experience. Like, I know that for other people and me, if I'm thinking about a bunch of things, or sometimes I'll catch myself almost dreaming while I'm still awake. Do you ever do that, to where you like start thinking about something and you have no clue where it came from? You're like, what's going on? And what is
Yes.
that's starting to dream? So I think being able to meditate and hold that state of mind really helps people. As far as techniques, I've tried a lot of techniques and I tend to get too wrapped up in them. I'm not saying they don't work, because they work wonders for a lot of people. I just get too wrapped up in them.
Yeah.
I meditate. I lay there until, and I will work my energy up and down my body. I focus on my breath a lot. I do like this breath work to where I just think, in and out, in and out. And then I'll start in my toes and work my energy up, my legs and try to like relax my body, at each point. And I don't do that all the time either. Sometimes I just lay there and I'll get relaxed enough, like, especially if I'm up late at night and I'm already tired, it doesn't take me long to get to that state. And that's usually whenever I have my best experiences and like in my easiest exits is whenever I'm up late at night, around 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to lay down and try, And so, yeah, I think that as far as, techniques, I think that visualization techniques and motion techniques are the ones that actually did work for me while I was trying them. And I'm sure they still do work for me. I just don't use those anymore. But I
Yeah.
like to picture rocking on a hammock or
Mm.
like swaying on a hammock, that's one of my favorite ones to get me to loosen up. It's like just and I can feel whenever I am doing that, I can feel myself rocking back and forth, I can get that motion going. So, how about you, Katie? What's your technique? Where's your
Oh,
go-to?
man, I am still trying to figure out my go-to or my I think I've really noticed that in following William, Buellman, his book, I really like, and I've taken his online course that he has, but I really like the saying the affirmations that, just kind of repeating those affirmations and holding that as like my last conscious thought
Right.
before I fall asleep. So saying those things like, now I leave my body, now those
Right.
kinds of affirmations. And then the target technique that he likes and has talked about a lot, and visualizing walking through, home and finding targets, three things of interest. Um, and there's been some other ones that I've tried. Someone had suggested to me recently about a motion technique
Mm.
and jumping, and like that they jump on a trampoline, or they imagine themselves jumping, and for some reason that made it into my dream the other night. And I was jumping, but I wasn't, and I was trying to have an OBE, but I was not lucid in my dream. So at least that stuff is kind of making its way into my dream. I think that, helps from what I've learned, at least, the more of that material that we're thinking about it, we're reading about it, it just kind of, it primes that, your
Does work on
subconscious
your
that you
subconscious. Yeah.
want to have that experience, because like you said, there's going to be that part that tries to keep us grounded and keep us here, right?
Yeah. I have total belief in the gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. I first heard about that with Bob Peterson, and his blog. I know Simon talks about it. A lot of people in our group talk about it. Do you know
Bob's
what his
blog's
blog?
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob's blog. Say it 5 times fast.
Yeah.
And so, can you say a little bit about Bob? I know he's a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
Just the things that he's done.
That was my next go around was Bob. Bob's great. Bob is, a handy tool in the community in our group. He's a great admin. He spends a lot of his time just reviewing books, so that way we have a good idea of what we're getting ourselves into, and he kind of does the work for us without having to not say read, books that are bombs, but like, gonna go through his blog or go through his book reviews and see, well, this looks like a great book because Bob's been around the block a few times
Yeah.
and he, knows where there's good information and, he does a really good job of helping us out, I think, in our group. And another thing that I believe that Bob taught me was the blanket of light. And it's where you lay, and I think I can't remember how he pictures it, but I kind of did my own little spin on it. And so while I'm laying down, I will picture like I can't remember his name and like smack me on my hand because I'm a big Zeppelin fan. but you know the guy that carries the light on the, the man, what is that man? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't think of what they call him, but anyway, so I picture a man that kind of looks like that, which is
Okay.
so strange to me. But he
Okay.
throws these thin blankets of white over me, and they cover me and soak through me down into my bed, and it's like the most relaxing thing. And I actually haven't done that in a while, and I'm glad that you brought up Bob because of that, because I that's a really good relaxation technique, is to picture a blanket of white light, and it's a good protection thing too. It gives you, that protection, that protective feeling. You can
Mhm.
do gold or white, but it's a blanket of light technique to where it just kind of melts through you, and it really relaxes you. But yeah, Bob's he's very handy. I like him a lot, and he's done a lot for our community and our group, and it makes it really brings a peace of mind to me. I feel like just having him, and the few of the admins that we have that are really just pour their heart and soul into, a lot of, I mean, all of our admins. I can't say just a few, but all of our
Yeah,
admins pour their heart and soul into this community, and it's a beautiful
absolutely.
thing to see. I mean, I'm not going to say that, other groups don't do that, but I feel really lucky that we have, the people that we do. And I know our members see that too. They really appreciate it. They're always very thankful anytime somebody helps them or offers any tips. And sometimes I don't think they realize that they're talking to, book writers that have written all these books that are just there to
I
give their
know.
time, because I know I didn't, you
Same.
know.
Like
Yeah.
you were talking about messaging
Yeah.
Mr. Buellman and you
Yeah.
didn't realize it first, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll leave you be. Thanks.
Yeah, well, and that kinda happened to me with Simon. I got a little starstruck because I didn't re he was always one of the first people to, like, write back or write or comment back on my
I didn't
question.
even realize he was the creator. Didn't even know
No!
it.
I did not, and then I think I messaged him something privately, something I just didn't wanna share to the whole
Mhm.
group, and I was like, "I'm so sorry to message you like this," but, and I somehow it got mentioned that, when he's like, "When I started the group," and I'm like, "What?" You know?
The
It's like,
founder.
"Yeah, I created the group." So that was really cool, but Bob, back to I don't know if I lost track here of what we were talking about, but back to Bob, the book that he wrote, Hacking the Out of Body Experience, I think is what it's
Mhm.
called. And I listened to it on Audible, and it's one of those books that, like, I just want to, after listening to it, I wanted to go back through with a notepad and just like take all these notes because it's just like
So
this
much information.
dictionary of, a wealth of information, and that's where I first heard about that, gatekeeper thing that you were talking about, was from Bob's book,
Yeah.
and um, I can't remember how he refers to it as, but, something about gatekeeper, guardian of the threshold, I
There
think.
you go.
Is
Yep, I was gonna say it, but I was like, "You'll get it."
Oh, thank you. And, so, yeah, that was, like, really, that was really interesting to me, and the motion techniques and how those trick your TBJ, isn't that what it's called? TBJ,
I
in
believe
your
so,
brain,
yeah.
um,
Mhm.
and he just kinda explains how that tricks, your body, your brain into letting go, or
Right.
yeah, so that's really cool. So yeah.
Yeah. He has his book, The Hacking the Out of Body Experience. It goes from, I mean, just experiences to, techniques, and it's just so much information. You do almost need to take notes because it's like you said, I mean, it's a holy grail, like with Adventures Beyond the
Yeah.
Body. I mean, they're tit for tat with me, him and Buellman, they both have great books. They're really, really good tools for anybody starting out or anybody just interested in the subject to me. It's a big major help, I think, just to, like I said, breathe, sleep it, those are books that you would wanna have on your shelf, or either in your phone on your Audible or however you like to indulge in books, you know?
Yes,
So
yes, and that's, William's books, and, I mean, he's got, quite a few, and then he just released one that was free online, Clarity
mhm.
Now, and then, um,
Which shows his love for
then
the community. I mean, having so many great books that are, just people love his books and his, material, and him to release something like that free online just shows how much he loves that community and how much it means to him to share that information for free,
and
that
that's
spoke volumes.
yeah, and I think that that's what's so great about, our group, getting that information, that good information that I had been in a couple other groups where I just noticed such a difference with, with our group, the astral projection techniques. Like, just it really kept, like, I just felt like it was such a safe space. There's no fear mongering. A lot of stuff is kept out of it to, if people are, saying things that aren't, true,
True.
because like you said with Bob reviewing those books, like there's so many books that,
Or
I could
misleading
have
and yeah.
started on. I can't imagine, just starting, a certain book, reading a book for the first time, it being something different or something that could
It's
have
terrifying. Yeah,
given
like
me all this.
and I'm a firm believer in that, whenever I first started, experiences and experiencing things, I'm a horror movie junkie. My whole family are. We love
Yeah.
Halloween, and I would watch horror movies and then I'd go lay down and meditate and think that I was going to have these great experiences. And I'm like seeing, crazy stuff. I remember one time I got out and I'm like on the ceiling and I'm looking down and there's like somebody, I mean, it looked like a person to me. Obviously, it was a person, but they had like almost like a body bag around them and they were standing in the middle of my room. And talk about, terrified. I was like, because but it wasn't anything. It was my, what I mean? It was just me and what I was interpreting as
Mhm.
something that was scary. Like I think it was, I would say she. I just have like this, it was a female,
Yeah.
but she wasn't doing anything scary. She was just in my room, and I don't even know if it was a body bag. I had watched a terrifying movie before that. So, it could have been just a black back of her dress. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh no, there's this lady in my room in a bag. And it
Yeah,
wasn't nothing like horror movie-ish, but I just remember thinking, like, in my head, that's what I came up with. And I
sure.
think, people just come up with these things that, and, body snatchers and, people are gonna, and it's like you can't open yourself to those things and expect to have good experiences right off the bat. Now I watch scary movies and I'm fine, I know how to handle things better now, but as far as like new people, like I don't want them to have that on their subconscious as they're trying to have
Yeah,
first experiences. It's just not, I don't think it's good.
yeah. That's it's been something else I've noticed so many posts through our group about, it's like a lot of people find their way to us because they were having, sleep paralysis, right?
Mhm.
And so they don't, they don't understand. It's scary,
Yeah.
to them. They don't know what's going on and why it's happening, and then maybe they're hearing or seeing scary things, which goes to the, um, that I was calling it hypnagogic, but I'm probably saying it wrong. What is it, Brie?
Hypnagogic.
Hypnagogic. Yeah, hypnagogic images, sounds, and which, which I've learned is like a good sign that, where you could have an experience, you could have an out of body experience if you, just stay relaxed. And so, but it's like that our group, seeing that it brings a lot of comfort and answers to people through, people are really supported through those experiences that are scary, and kind of reassured,
Yeah.
that they're not going crazy, there's nothing wrong with them. Yeah.
at the end of the day, those experiences are inevitable. Like, you know, you're gonna have bumps in the road. Like, there's gonna be, you know, a dark room or something. You know what I mean? It's just, it's gonna happen. But to put that in people's heads or, you know, repeatedly make posts like that to terrify people that are beginners and just trying to learn is just, it's nonsense to me. Like I said, if somebody comes and has those experiences, of course we're there to, you know, message them or, you know, but and we let, you know, stuff through like that sometimes just because it does happen, you know, it's not trying to sugarcoat things, but it's not, we don't want that to be the 50-50 ratio of the group, you know, like
Yeah.
terrifying. It just freaks people out and there's no need for that.
Yeah.
It's one of those kinda, it's a slippery slope of how, you know, and then, the people that are just there to bring that negativity or talk about, you know, body snatchers or, you know, whatever, those people always come out to play in the comments on those posts, you know, so you can kinda
Yeah.
weed out who's there to actually help and, you know, because it's not all like that. Like, I've had beautiful experiences, and so to label it as one or the other, you know, just like life, it's there's dark and there's light. Anywhere you go, there's dark and there's light. So you can't, you know, you can't have one without the other. So you have to, you know, it's a take it or leave it type thing, but you can't,
Mhm.
you know, terrify people in the process, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
I
so I wanted to talk to you about how you feel like this has changed, how astral projection and just having these experiences have changed your outlook on life and death in general. How do
oh
you feel about
gosh.
that?
Ooh, I could talk to you about that for a whole episode, I think, bramble on. And that's an emotional thing. That really hits because I don't think I can say it in a way that that anybody really will understand like how much it has just yeah, it's just changed my entire life. The way that every single day, waking up, going to sleep, throughout the day, the way that I see the world, and the way, I mean, it's not just about these experiences have opened up, this whole possibility of exploration of consciousness, right? And
Mhm.
and so some people do it for the fun of it. They want to go to the moon. They want to, fly down their street, or just have these fun experiences. And then some people want to just take it, deeper, and go through these layers of consciousness, and these higher planes and things.
Mhm.
I think of, William's books, and him, talking about that. And I've had, like a couple experiences where I just kind of got like, you know, um, a little bit of a taste of that, where using those commands like higher self now,
Right.
and so it left me with, it's like I was brought to something so beautiful and peaceful, and but then it leaves me with questions, where was that? Was that, what does that mean? And I just want to know more. I want to experience more. And then it's brought me so much peace, I guess. Like you said, I started this out with being scared of death, and, listening to those NDEs, because I thought, well, these are people who have seen the other side.
Right.
I'm scared that, and I think in Frank Labat, I'm not saying his last name right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank. And he's one of our admins, and his book, um, Odyssey of the Soul, I think I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Yeah, so his book, and I think, it started out, he said something about, death and what happens, and it's like, that really, I resonated with that, because I was, that's where I was at. But having this out of body experience and having these other experiences afterwards that, um and realizing, wow, this is a real thing, like, it just gave me so much peace knowing that, I'm not this is my,
This isn't
not
it.
just this body. Yeah. You were more than our body, and, it was, so to answer your see, I told you I could just keep talking and
I love it
ramble
though.
on about this. After having that first spontaneous experience and the magnet thing that I told you, the
Mhm.
polar opposites or whatever, that magnetic push, I was listening to it was Bob's book. It was, Audible, it was Hacking the Out of Body Experience, and
Right.
he talks about Robert Monroe's method, or technique that he does, and I can't remember. Oh, dang it. It's called Lines of something. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. Um, and so in that method, he says lines of force. That's what it
There you
is.
go.
Lines of force technique. And I
I knew
can't,
it was something similar, but I didn't wanna say something wrong either, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So he explains how to do it, and he talks about imagining these lines of force and that they have a push against each
Mhm.
other. And I don't know if he called it magnetic or if he was just talking about the push between the lines and that force is getting greater. And, it just gave me goosebumps because I was
Yeah,
like, that is, I went
amazing.
that was how my whole thing started. I was like, "That is so cool." I got really excited.
And you did it all by
And
yourself too, that's what's so cool about that is, like, just, I mean, you like, what's the odds? And I totally believe everything happens for a reason, you know?
yeah, and the thing is, when I tried to talk to, a coworker or a friend about this, afterwards, and, you're kinda met with the eyes like,
Okay, right.
"Okay,
Yeah, sure.
great." And you quickly, like, learn to just, "Okay, I have my group. I'll talk about it to my group." Um But you're so excited, you just like, this is, news you just wanna, like, share with everybody. This is amazing, like,
Right. It's
I was
funny you said that because I remember in 2020, whenever I was having my experiences and I wanted to share with people, and I looked like a nut. And then they released the files saying that remote viewing was real. And I'm like, see, I told you. I posted on my Facebook. I'm like, see, told you. It just made me feel better because I'm like, I'm not just saying it. Other people aren't just saying it. They're admitting it's real. They kind of snuck that in with the UFO thing, they just snuck that in there like it was, kind of under the rug type thing because I mean, everybody knows there's something else out there besides here. I mean, it's almost kind of silly to think that there's not at this point. But like it was like that was almost bigger than them admitting that there's UFOs or that there's aliens or there's people, or,
Yeah,
I call them, aliens, but they're really just, I'm sure, similar to us. I know there's other races out there, but yeah, I'm like, that's almost bigger than because that admits that there's life after death to me.
right,
Because that was my biggest fear is maybe there's not anything, because like
right.
I said, I didn't grow up religious. That was my big fear was I was going to not see my family that I was so excited to see.
Yeah,
After that experience I had the night I had my first astral projection experience, I was like, well, it's one thing seeing something out of your peripheral vision or hearing things, but having something like touch you and hearing, audio too on top of it is while you're wide awake that was like I mean, it freaked me out, like, to the extreme, like, I was literally, like, shaking. But then having that experience that same night, I'm like, "Well, there's the answer to my questions, I'm not scared to pass over anymore, and I know my family I'm sure I don't know for sure, but I'm sure they're waiting on me, at least some of them, that
yeah,
they'll be there, and that's really, really reassuring and refreshing and comforting to me to know that I have, that to look forward to. Of course, my time here is not done. I've got, things to do,
things
and
to do.
we've just started, baby, so
Yeah.
we're doing good.
Yes. And the having, some people get to connect with their loved ones on the and when they're in an out of body experience, and I hope to get to experience that,
Yeah.
someday. And I know your experience, which you'll talk about, maybe you said maybe in another
Yeah. I think we'll
episode.
dedicate an episode to that. Maybe we'll have I think we should have Claudia on, and maybe she can
Yes.
I think that would
Yes.
be a great person to have that episode with.
Yes. And I think, those vibrations that really stuck with me with my first experience, it was confirmation to me. Like, I still kinda had it in my head, like, maybe I was just dreaming, maybe because before this, I did not, I like I said, I really didn't believe in I thought,
Right.
probably not," Probably not. Maybe somebody can levitate if they're really great at yoga and meditation or something, but, like, I
Mhm.
just and I didn't know anything about chakras and all of that stuff. I just didn't know if I believed in all that stuff, but after this, it's like it just blew everything wide open,
Yeah.
and so I did one of or the Focus 10,
Mhm.
that meditation through, a little class through the Monroe Institute. They have some of those classes online, and so just listening to, that Focus 10, it was one night, I think I woke up in the middle of the night and I put headphones on and I listened to it and I fell asleep, but I woke up and I couldn't move, so I'm in that,
Wow.
like, paralyzed, state
Mhm.
and stuff, and I woke up because I heard this loud, like, buzz in my ear. It's what woke me up in my right ear, and then after that buzz, like, happened, it's like those vibrations were all over. I could hear, like, it sounded like radio static and lots of noise. It was loud and it was this electricity, like, buzzing. I
Yeah.
felt like something was, like, almost floating inside my body, almost like a kind of like I don't know, those what are those old school games? Brie, I'm losing words here. Those machines, pinball. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, you lost me there.
Yep,
I
old
wasn't sure.
machines, it could be anything.
Right.
Pinball machine, and it just felt like this something was, like, floating inside, just kind of
Mhm.
gently, like, and I was hearing all this loud. I wasn't able to make an exit because I was just and now I realize, everybody says, "Don't focus on your body," I was really focused on
Yeah.
everything that was happening, but it was so cool because that really confirmed to me, like, oh my gosh, like, those vibrations are really real. I was awake, for that to happen and stuff,
Yeah.
so that's cool.
Yeah, I never exit from I've only exited from being, like, asleep a few times. I'm always very awake, like, I just get relaxed, and sometimes I'll roll off my bed or off my couch,
Mhm.
knock on wood, I've never rolled off and hit the floor. I just roll off and I keep falling. I don't know how many others have that sensation of just I'm literally falling. It feels like I've jumped out of a plane or jumped off of a building, and I fall and fall and fall until I reach where I'm going.
Mhm.
Very and then sometimes I will just get up, like but sometimes I can't pull myself out to get up, so I have to roll off or, lately I've been doing this thing where I reach up and I keep reaching up with my hands because my limbs are always the first thing to come out. So I reach up to the sky as far as I can reach with my hands and it just pulls me out. But yeah, I don't get vibrations either. I've only had those a few times. Like actually recently, a couple months ago, I had vibrations and they were really intense and it almost felt like my eyes were rolling in the back of my
Oh,
head.
wow.
I was like, I mean, I was going full force. It felt
Yeah.
like, and I had that was a pretty long experience that I had that time. Like it was different, and
Mhm.
I've had different types of experiences with different exits and different, just leading up to, the things that lead up to it almost sometimes are different for me. But most of the time, I don't even know that I can exit. I think I've talked to this about other people. I think sometimes we miss our chance to exit because we don't, we get that shift but we don't do anything to get out, like,
Mhm.
I believe you were referring to, like, door now, you were saying door now and it wasn't
Yes.
working, and I've done that a lot of times and I'm like, this isn't working,
Right?
I'm like, what am
You
I supposed to
start
do?
getting
So
frustrated.
I just started rolling off the bed, hoping for the best, hoping I don't hit the floor, because
Yeah.
whenever you're having those experiences, it's so similar to this body that sometimes I'm not sure if I'm going to roll off or not.
Mm.
Sometimes it's harder for me to pull out than others, so I know for sure. And then I have this dual consciousness to where I can kind of like peek and look and I'll see that this is before I started putting my hands underneath the blanket, but I would be able to like move my arms around, but my arms weren't moving and I could watch it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it would like throw me back to where I wouldn't be able to do it. But I've done that on numerous occasions to where I could like wiggle things around
Yeah.
or like even open my eyes while I'm in my bed or wherever I'm laying down still, but I'm out of body, but it always throws me back. But it's still cool to just witness that?
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's not too long ago. Was trying to get in that deep, relaxed state, and I think I don't know if I fell asleep and woke back up but I just started hearing snoring, like, just
Oh,
light
yeah. I do that often.
snoring.
And I don't snore,
Right.
you know?
It's I was like, "That's not me," and then I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, you know, I'm hearing myself
How cool is
snore.
that?
It was wild, and I just sat there just very calm and just listened to myself snore for I don't know how many minutes, but then, I don't know, somebody at work was talking about snoring, and I said, "Yeah, I know I snore because I listened to myself snore, the other night,"
And
and
they're like,
they said, you cannot hear you can't listen to
"Wanna
yourself
bet?"
snore."
Yeah, "Wanna
And
bet?"
I was like, "Yeah, okay, don't talk about that."
Right, "No, you can't, I can't," you know?
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Yeah, so fun times, fun times. So, yeah, I think that, we covered a lot of bases tonight. I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. So is there anything else you wanna talk about before we, wrap it up?
Well, I think that that is a great, start to, so much to come.
I do too. I think I don't wanna talk too much about everything that I have
Sure.
because I don't wanna loosen my arsenal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I I got a loaded gun back here, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to I got a backpack full of materials, so
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that, we have a lot of excitement for the future, and what's to come. We have a really good lineup of guests that I'm really excited to announce. And so,
Yeah.
me and Katie plan to do this bi-weekly, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so, episode every 2 weeks, and then we're gonna do some, like, late night recaps after we have some guests, after hours, and I think that should be fun, so,
We're good at
yeah.
this after hours stuff, Bree.
I know, it's gonna be
We're
yeah,
just night
PJs and
owls, you and me.
coffee and yeah.
Yep.
Maybe some fresh faces in your future, so
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm really excited about this with you, and it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna help a lot of people, get the word out and maybe not be so standoffish on the subject, and it's something that needs to be talked about. We're in a new age, a new level of consciousness, and people wanna discuss these things, and I think it's good to put this out there. Oh,
Yeah, and I really hope, just as me being more of a newcomer, that I can bring some of those questions and things that, people who are newer to this might
right.
be wondering about or wanting to know at least. So,
I think so. I think, yeah, and I'm still a newbie. I mean, I've been having experiences for about, I guess, 6 years almost, so it's not like
mhm.
I'm just it's well seasoned compared to some of the other people that we know. So I think that our just a fresh take on things and new and old techniques and new and old faces, I think it's gonna be a really good show we have going here, and we have a really good lineup of guests that we have that's gonna come on, so I think that's even more exciting. I'm excited to announce
Oh,
that.
so excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the secrets that I
Doodly
I
doodly.
wanna say, but, we
Yeah.
gotta keep that a secret. Shh.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think that we'll wrap this episode up and we'll keep it where it is and there'll be more to come and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. It's gonna be great, and again, to Simon, right?
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Simon. We appreciate
Simon.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
And all the viewers out there, please like and subscribe and come back and see us. And we'll, if you turn them notifications on, then you'll get an update whenever we post. And we plan to post on YouTube and we will post on Spotify and Apple. And in the future, whenever we have other platforms that we're uploading on, we will leave those in the description. And I hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all of you for being here too. All right, Katie,
Yeah.
it was nice.
It was nice. Thank you, Bree.
All right. See you, babe. Bye.
Bye.